this second video looking at settings, we want to know what these options for responses are about and notifications down here. So if we look at the first one, accept responses, by default this box is always checked, and it's a good idea to keep it checked because it means that when that is checked the quiz is live, so to speak, i.e. it will accept responses. If you uncheck it, you see this box here and that says on this message here that says recipients aren't able to fill in and submit this format at the moment, and therefore it's not available to them. So we want to make sure that that is always ticked, accepting responses. Now, one or two things we can do here in terms of control as to when our students can take these quizzes. So if we click on start date, you can see that we have a calendar drop down here, and we can go to wherever we want the start to be. So let's choose Wednesday the 8th. You can also see there that you've got the month as well, so we can just move along if we want to. So we've opened this on the 8th, and you can see as well on the right hand side here that we've got a drop down for time, and that the times are by default in half hour 30-minute tranches, but we can change that by going up here, clicking on that, and we can set that to any time we want. And similarly, we can have an end date. So we could have a start date, and it doesn't obviously start until that particular time and date. That could be, I suppose, if you haven't yet finished content, you just don't want to release the quiz until that time. Similarly, we've got an end date, so we can choose the date. It could be the same day, it could be the next day, and then we can choose the time as well. So we might give them just about 24 hours to complete that particular quiz. So you've got some control over when the quiz is able to be taken, and that might be useful, particularly if you've got some kind of controlled assessment that you want to set up. That's just useful to be aware of those 2 points. If you unclick them, then it's just available to be taken at any time, and obviously that's really useful if you've made this so that students can come back and take multiple opportunities to take the quiz many times. So you wouldn't want to have those 2 set up. The next one, shuffle questions, is really interesting. So we click on this, you can see that it says here all questions. So what this means is that if we come over to the quiz, all of these questions will appear in a shuffled order for each different recipient, each different student. And that's really great, because if you've got students in a class doing it at the same time, for example, student A's question 1 will not necessarily be the same as student B's question 1, and so the order of the questions change. We also might remember in a previous video we looked at how we can change the order of the responses. This is a slightly different thing, but we can change the order of responses as well as changing, in this case, the order in which the questions appear. Another thing we can do is we can lock questions. So it might be, for example, that you wanted question 1 always to be the first question, and then after that the questions could be shuffled. It's just another feature, an option that you could choose. So you might lock down question 1 to 1 in this case, or question 1 to 2, or 1 to 3, that those first 3 questions are always appear in that particular order, and then from there the questions could be random. There's a custom thank you message here. I'm just going to click off that. Custom thank you message here, which means that you can put in any message you want to when they finish taking the quiz. And then the last one, which is really interesting as well, is the notifications. Now, by selecting this one, send email receipt to respondents, means that when they finish the quiz, they get an option for their answers to be sent to them via email. So they get a little email, which they then click on a link to. They can see the responses. Now, the key to this one to be aware of is that even though they have their responses sent to them, if you haven't yet marked it and graded it, that won't show up. It will only be what they actually responded, how they responded. So they could be looking at wrong responses. And then the second one there is get email notification for each response. If I click that, that means that you as a teacher will receive an email notification every time one of your students completes the quiz. Let's have a look at what that looks like then. So first of all, as a teacher, I can see here, this is me, obviously you received a new response from student, in this case me. And as a teacher, I can view on the results and I can go and see exactly what this student did. Now, as a student, in my inbox, I'll get something that looks like this. Thank you for filling out the Berlin Olympic Games, the name of the quiz, view my responses, and the student can click on that and go directly to how they responded. And it's important to just re-emphasize that it's not going to be if that quiz has been marked up by the teacher, it's exactly how they responded. So it's just to be aware that might cause potential confusion.